We have 1 minute. Shall I? Okay. Start. Okay. A very good morning to all. I'm I'm going to begin with marketing research process, consumer behavior, and organizational buying behavior. So let's begin with the marketing research process. Marketing research process is just a terminology which is mainly used to describe that how the particular product or the service could develop, and what would be the actual concept of these terms, how the particular brand or a product or service could be aware and its overall process progress. So ultimately it refers to it refers to describe the overall development, the overall the concept of the product and service, its awareness, its overall progress, and that actually called the marketing research process. There are the four main marketing mix, that is product, price, place, and promotion, are the major or important factors which is considered in the overall research process towards a particular you can say for a company or for a particular firm. So whenever a company try to launch a new product or service in the market and earns a profit and revenue, these four factors, that means the four factors of the marketing mix, would be considered accordingly, and the researcher has to work on these four factors before launching a particular product or service into a market. So in short, I could say the marketing process is always assessed to find out the what would be the changes occurred in the consumer behavior patterns, what would be the current market trends, what would be the expectations of the customers, what would be the interest level of the customers towards launching a new product and services. So whenever we are trying to find out something new, to identify the anything in respect of the consumers, in respect of the customers, related to a new product or launching a new product and services, there is a process to apply, and that is called marketing research process. And of course, the main objective of the marketing research process is to gain the attention of all those customers from the available competitors or from their rivals. And that's why a research and development should be an immediate steps for the particular new product and service, for to know the exact status of their customers in the market. Now we come up to the 7 stages in the marketing research process. The first one is to define the problem. So automatically, before we come up to the you can see first stage, that is first point, that is defining the problem, it is very necessary to understand the research. So the research is always begins with the markets who are facing some sort of the problems, and accordingly the problems could be studied and find out a possible and the soundful decisions to solve that problem, and that is called research. So it is essential to define the market research problem, which is the one of the first main step of the research process. And accordingly, once the researcher would identify the issues and concern into the market and find out the possible solutions, then ultimately the researcher has to study about the causes, about the results, about the effects, about the solutions of the problem which are occurred in the market. So ultimately, defining the problem in the research process means why and how questions would be arise to answer, you can say, such questions. So the problems needs to be defined in detail, and the definition of such problem would consist of four main elements. What would be the causes and factors which are responsible related to the problem? What would be the problems encountered due to the errors or due to the mistakes of the, you can say, of the researchers? What would be the solution and method could be applied to such problems? What would be the strategies and techniques could be used so that such problems could be avoided in the future? So that is the first stage of the marketing research process, and that is defining the problem. Next stage is the second stage is planning the research design. So in normal sense, the research design is an overall blueprint of the whole study. Or in other words, we could say it is termed as a strategy, which is mainly used to conduct the market research or to collect the data from the various respondents selected for a particular study. So the research design includes techniques, methods, procedures which always being used to collect the data from the respondents. And there are three main types of research design in to study of or related to the marketing issues. The first one is exploratory. Exploratory means to gain the facts and opinions regarding the problems or any specific topic. That means the exploratory research design would be used. That means you know the problem. Now how you will explore the problem and its solutions related to the, you can say, related to the particular study or particular issue. And to apply such exploratory research design, you need to research out the journals, the books, the magazines and publication metrics and interviews are used. For example, you know the problem, that how the problem could be solved, what would be the possible solutions could be made, how to explore that topic more and more. Then you have to go on through the research journals, books, publication. For example, poverty. You know the problem, poverty exists in India. Now you need to find out the facts. You need to find out the opinions of different you can expertise team or the different respondents in that particular respective areas. You can apply the exploratory research study. Next one is descriptive research study. Descriptive research study is always used to make a specific decision on a problem and track its performances. So automatically you have a problem, that how the problem, and you have already there is a problem, you already find out the solution, then you have to take a decision, you can say, or a soundful solution on the problem and just track its performances in the respective years. That's called descriptive research design. So descriptive research design, it's need to be analyzed, it need to be measured statistically. So there are various tools of the statistics. A descriptive statistics is to be used to describe this particular term, that is called descriptive research design for a particular study. Next one is causal. Causal research design is mainly used to define a causal relationship between two or more variables or the available variables. For example, if we take up an example, age and education, and we need to find out the causal relationship, the cause and effect relationship between these two variables, that means the available variables, that's called the causal research design. That means the causal research design process use the various existing stores theories and experiments to study the project. So this is how these types of research designs could be used for your researches in the related to the marketing issues and concern. Next one is the next third stage is selecting a sample. So while solving or any implementing a marketing research problem, it is very important to decide the samples which need to be selected for the further analysis. And to select a sample, there are few parameters that a particular researcher need to consider. The first one is which sample to select from available population units. So you need to understand what is sample. Sample is a sub-unit selected from the population. For example, there are 1,000 persons, so I have selected only 100%, and 100 would be the sample. So your first step is to which sample to select from the available. It would be the sample related to the age, the sample is related to the education, that I need the candidates who are actually the PhD holders. So that is called the sample. So you need to decide which sample to select from the available population units. Then once you decide the sample, which sample, then the type of the method to be used to select that sample and how you will select. You have decided, okay, 100 samples to be selected, but in which method you will apply to select that 100 sample. So there are only two methods. The first one is probability sampling and the non-probability sampling. Probability sampling is all about that every respondent have an equal chance of being selected for a particular study, and the non-probability, they don't even get an equal chance. It's just non-random basis. We can select the samples and accordingly we can use for the study. So non-probability sampling refers that the particular respondent don't even get an equal chance of being selection into a particular study. The next task for selecting the sample is the size of the selected samples. When we talk about the size of a selected samples, is always incurs the cost and accuracy of the decisions, because it refers it or it incurs you can say huge cost, money, energy. So automatically the size of the selected sample, you need to you need to decide then what would be the size of the selected sample, and it totally depends. For that, a particular researcher need to estimate the cost and the accuracy of its own decisions. So that is the third stage of selecting a sample. Next one is collecting the data. So once you finalize the sample, the fourth step is just you need to collect the data from the respondents. And there are two types of data. The first one is operational data and the second one is experience data. So operational data is that type of data which actually relate to the numeric, a quantitative in nature. That means the data is related to the cost of the product, sales of the product, profits of the new product or the existing product, account related information. That is mainly executive called an secondary data. Experience data is defined as that type of data which describe the experiences and the thoughts, opinions, perceptions of customers, employees, and user, or even the experience of the customers will also include in that. And that is more in qualitative in nature, and that is called the experience data, or in other words we could say the primary data. So operational data are termed as secondary data and experience data are termed as primary data. So with the help of these tools or with the help of the survey tool, you can easily collect the data from the selected respondents either through the social media platforms like email, Slack, WhatsApp, SMS, or so that you can reach out more and more customers and get the accurate that the reliable data. So the data could be related to the purchasing patterns of the customers at present or the past. So this is this to assess the purchasing patterns of the past and the present customers. Then such type of data either you can use operation, either you can use the experience data because you need an opinion and the experience and their thoughts from the customers, from the present or the past customers, and in this way the data could be collected, and it is a very important role for the marketing research process. The next step is analyzing the marketing research data. So once the data has been collected, the next stage is that how to analyze the marketing research data. So automatically the analysis could be done or made on the data which has been gathered by the researcher. Then this is the following parameters to check on to analyze the data. So the first one is whether to check whether the data is collected that is meaningful and relevant. So just go through the data first, that is the raw data, whether it is meaningful or relevant. Whether any second is there any relationship between that collected data or the data which are available in the portal? So that you need to find out the second parameters relationship between that data that you have collected and the data which is available online. And the third one is to check whether the data is available data describing the solution. So data which are available online, actually that data, if the researcher could use, will describe the solutions for it or not. So this is also the one of the parameter the researcher has to check out. Next one is some key points which always helps to make the changes accordingly. So just try to keep or make or prepare the key points which always, if there are changes required in the data collection process, so definitely the changes could be done accordingly. And if once you done all these four parameters, so automatically you can apply the statistical tools and strategies to analyze that data. So that is the fifth stage, that analyzing the marketing research data. Next, once the data has been analyzed, then you have to conclude your conclusions and prepare the report. Once the problem has been described in detail, the sample has been collected, the data has been collected, then accordingly the data has been analyzed. Then the next step is to draw the conclusions and prepare the reports. And the reports are classified into two main categories. The first one is technical report and the second one is summary report. So when we talk about the technical reports, technical report consists of all those details, yeah, all those information about the problem or any research topic. It get all the information relating to strategies, what would be the techniques used in the study, what would the working flow, the prescribed time period of the study, the structure of the study, and solutions. That is called the technical report. Summary report means the summaries consist of overall process, the overall stages of the research, what would be the findings has been achieved, and the conclusion. So depending upon the type of the study, the type of the data, accordingly the researcher will choose the type of the report so that they will end up the research process. And the next one is follow up. That every follow up is a last step of the research process. So, in the initial stages of the marketing research process, the data has been collected, interpreted, conclusion has been made. Once the conclusion has been made, the follow ups of the overall process and strategies and the solution need to be taken. So, or whatever the solutions or decisions made could be implemented or could be re-implemented in this phase. That after the successful implementation of the strategies, a possible action what is to be monitored or is to be evaluated. So it's just a checking process whether all the techniques has been applied on the problem and whether the positive outcome on the marketing issues would come or not. That is the and track the performances of the solutions. That is called following up. That is the last step of the marketing research process. Now we come up to the next concept, that is consumer behavior. So in journal, I could say the consumer behavior is a psychological based study that how the individual you can say make their decisions, how they will motivate themselves to make a purchase towards a particular product. So in other words, we could say the consumer behavior observe that how the individuals and people choose, use, and disrespect or discard the products and services. That in through this process, the particular researcher will came to know their emotional side, their cognitive decision side, and of course the behavioral reactions of the particular customers and consumers. And the following factors is to be needed to be studied, that how the consumer feels about a certain brands, products or services, what motivates the consumers when they pick up a particular product and why, what would be the factors involved when a consumer taking up a decisions, or what would be the factors which influence their buying decisions, their perceptions, and why. How the consumers make decisions in groups when they or in groups or when they are alone. So this is a study related to the consumer's behavior, where there are different situations, how the consumers is to be studied, is to be observed, uh, when they motivate themselves, when they take up a decisions, when they change their decisions immediately, when they make a decisions in groups or alone. That when a particular researcher study all these factors, parameters, that is actually called consumer behavior. Importance of next one is importance of consumer behavior for marketers. So the first one is insight into customer needs. So the consumer behavior analysis is always when we do, when the particular researcher analyzes the consumer behavior, it always motivates or provides a valuable insights into a consumer needs, desires, their preferences, their perceptions. So whatever the target audience or type of the customers has been targeted. So it is very important to understand the consumers, that how they choose, whenever they choose their products, what would be the gap in that particular product and their relevant irrelevant offerings and what was shown in the catalogs. So that is a need to understand, need to go into a valuable insight or deep insight into understand the customer's needs. Next one is effective marketing strategies. How the consumers, whenever they purchase or taking up a decision related to the purchases, how the researcher would study that decision, purchasing decision at that point of time, and that is a major research area where the business try to develop the business more effective marketing strategies into a market. They can messaging systems, they can do a branding promotions, they can do the promotion in with the customers preferences and their taste, and in this way they can easily increase the attention and of the customers, and that it converts into a sales. Next one is product development and innovation. The consumer behavior research is always help the differences between the market and the whatever the areas for the product improvement. So it is very important to understand the consumer feedback and observe their behavior, and accordingly business would, as when they would take an action to innovate and develop the products or improve the product to reach out more and more audience. So in this way, the customer satisfaction and loyalty would get increased. The next one is competitive advantage. So when a particular researcher understand the consumption behavior, then automatically the business gives a competitive edge or advantage to its own customers. So while looking up the customer taste and preferences, it is very important to anticipate that how much the shifts in the market occur, what would be the available competitors, how a company would position their brand being as a leader in that particular industry. So it is very important to research and understand these parameters in it. Next one is customer engagement and retention. It is very important to understand the consumer behavior into a market. The business is always create you can say personalized create personalized experiences and how to engage and retain its customers with the company. So it is important to build up a cordial relationship, to build up a trust and understanding, and in this way, the businesses can you can say earn a long-term loyalty and advocacy. So this is how the importance of consumer behavior or the consumer behavior is important for the marketers and customers. So now the next important part is what are the factors which are influencing the consumer behavior. So these are the factors, five main factors: the cultural factors, social factors, personal factors, economic factors, psychological factors. So let's begin to study one by one separately. So the first one is psychological factors. Psychological factors, it relates that how a researcher could read the customer mind, how the consumer mind works, and that actually inflates their buying decision. And this is a particular study a researcher could make. So there are various factors which actually influence the decisions of the consumers, and the first one is that is psychological factors, that is motivation, learning, attitudes, and belief and perceptions. So when we talk about motivation, the inner, of course, the inner drive is always push a consumer to fulfill its own need. For example, someone might need a luxury, might want to buy a luxury car, not just for transportation, but to fulfill a deeper need for showing up a status or self-esteem for own satisfaction. So that is also one of the psychological factor, that is motivation. To motivate that, to the motivation is always push you to buy something whichever you are exactly want or in need. Next one is learning. So learning, it always acquiring the knowledge through experience and the outside sources. So it's always depends upon your experience and the sources that you are actually connected with the customers or with the outside externals, agencies, etc. Next one is attitudes and beliefs. So they are formed over a period of time from the various sources. Could be through experience, it could be through external sources or influences as well. So a person or a particular individual might choose an eco-friendly products because they believe in the environmental conservation, and that is also the one of the psychological factors which influence the decisions and the purchasing decisions of the consumers. Next one is perception, how the consumer interpreted and makes sense the available information. That is also the one of the psychological factors which influence the decisions of the consumer. So these are the four main psychological factors, and there are more psychological factors which also influence the purchasing decisions as well. So let's look up an example. That is, I took up a brand that is Nike, how it influenced the consumer behavior, and it always influenced the strong message of the brand, a campaign that is just do it, which always pushes a consumer motivation and aspiration. This message is very clear, and anyone can easily gain into its knowledge to achieve your goals with so much determination. And the brand as our brand has used a psychological trigger that how to motivate their customers, making them feel empowered while wearing the Nike products. So this is one of the good example which is relate to the psychological factor, that is motivation. Next factor is social factors. So social factors is always relate to that how it's always focus on the society influence on the individual consumers, and it divided into three main parts of it. That is family, reference groups, and role and status. Family, of course, family members can also influence their purchasing decisions. So if the parents wants to buy a car based on the safety records, thinking of their children's, so automatically that is belongs to a society. That is the safety of their children, the safety of the other children as well, for the welfare of the society, that everyone would remain safe in that particular context. Next one is reference groups. So these are the groups where that a particular person looks to for the validation or approval. So if a celebrity seen a references or endorse a product, so the friend might be more inclined to buy it. And that is a real scenario of it. So any favorite celebrity has endorsed, or you can say refer a product to their friends, and the friends are more inclined to buy such product immediately. For example, a Lux soap, for example, iPhone mobiles, or any you can say expensive, luxurious, or the gadgets, electronic gadgets as well. Next one is role and status. It depends upon the role of the society. The society, it could be parent, it could be manager, it could be a student, and everyone have their own individual purchasing decisions. Like for example, a manager, or you can say a restaurant manager, buy a very formal clothes or dress up to maintain their professional status, and that is comes under social factor because they show up their status in a society. Let's look up an example, that is, I took up a brand that is Apple, and how the Apple influences the consumer behavior. And Apple projects are not even gadgets; it's a status symbol. If any one of my student buy an iPhone, a latest iPhone gadgets, then ultimately it shows a status in the family, it shows a role and status in the society. So that's comes under social factors, this particular exact example. So automatically it feels like being as a and it feels like in a luxurious status, a specific status into a society. And Apple is one of that luxurious brands. When someone sees friends or the celebrity using the Apple products, so it creates a social urge to belongingness, driving the more and more purchases. And it always incline more and more people to buy a luxury product to just show your social status in a society. So this is the relate, such example relate to the social factors. Next one is cultural factors. So the personal factors automatically is a individual centric and it depends from one person to another person. So that's why these are the three main parameters which comes under cultural factors, because it is an individual based and depends from person to person. So the first one is culture, second one is subculture, and the third one is social class. So when we talk about the culture, we talk about the values, perceptions, and the beliefs society automatically, and it always influence the consumer's behavior. So in some cultures, for example, gold jewelry is being purchased as it symbolizes the wealth and status in a society. Next one is subculture, the groups within the culture who always share their beliefs, their values, and of course, the younger generation which always follows about it. So, for example, you can check out that the younger generation might be more inclined towards the online shopping than the older generation. As older generation visit to the shop and do a shopping, but now the subculture has been involved in it, where the plenty of the people share their beliefs and values, their experiences, and it states that the younger generation are more inclined to buy the online, to buy the clothes or any of the products through online shopping only, rather than or than the older generation. The next one is social class. So there are different classes having different preferences. Could be the luxury brands offer the upper class, discount stores target the middle or lower classes. So let's take up a Coca-Cola. So Coca-Cola, that how the Coca-Cola influence the consumer behavior. So Coca-Cola share a Coke. It's a one of the campaign, a best campaign where the bottles were personalized with the common names tapped into cultural and subcultural identities, where in the various regions or localities, names of the local cultures were printed, making a global brand or personally feel relevant to a different cultural groups. So when you can look up the ads, there is always a personalized messages with their own common names, where where any of the individual wouldn't see anything different or classified into the cultures, and it always a common culture. So in every region there are always names from a local cultures were printed. So if you look up the various regions, any product into that particular region, based on their culture they printed their names or etc, which ultimately are relevant to different, or you can see, cultural groups. So automatically Coke has used share a Coke which is common common for all, and they can, which includes the culture and subcultural identities. But such campaign is not based on the religions, where the different names and local cultures being printed on the bottles, and that's not exactly the campaign state. So the main purpose of the Coca-Cola brand is to make a global brand, just feel personally, and it's relevant to a different cultural groups as well. Next one is personal factors. So personal factors are classified into three main categories. The first one is age, second one is occupation and lifestyle, and the third one is personality. As as the age depends, depending upon the age, their taste, the consumer taste and preferences will always change. So the teenagers is always want gadgets, while older people want to invest their health products. So there is a different choices and depends upon their personal needs. Next one is occupation and lifestyle. So a corporate player might buy a formal dress or luxury car, while an artist just prefer, you can say, any informal or casual clothes and a simple car. So it depends upon the occupation that you are dealing with and how much you can incur to show your occupation and lifestyle. Personality, some obviously some people prefer fleshy items because of extrovert nature, and of course introverts might choose more simple simple personality. So automatically those who are extrovert, they are more into a fashion, and who are introvert, they might be a mix of both. So this is depends relate to the personality, which is one of the main factor of the personal level. So there is an example, the brand L'Oreal. So how the L'Oreal influenced the consumer behavior. So L'Oreal famous tagline, because you are worth it. It speaks directly to an individual self worth and esteem. So they are actually pushing up the consumers for their personal pampering and the self-care. Just take care of your age, just take care of your health, right? So that accordingly they can easily catch up the consumers feeling and self perception. So such message is always such personalized or individualized message, which always shows a self worth and esteem. Just look at your, just simply do your self care related to your health or related to a health products, and accordingly they can easily understand the consumers feelings and the self perception. So accordingly the customer would more focus according to the age, personality, and of course the lifestyle. Next one is economic factors. So economic factors always revolve around the financial aspects that influence the buying behavior or decisions. Personal income. Next is country economic situation and liquid assets. So personal income, that how much the someone earns and directly affects their purchasing power. So the person who has a high salary, they will spend more and more. They don't even think to while buying an expensive product. While someone with a lower salary might look for dealings, for the discount, so that they can buy the product according to their pocket. The next one is country economic situation. So automatically it depends upon the economic situation, like it would be inflation or it would be recession. So in case of the recession, the stable incomes might be cut off on the luxury items, and they just more and more focus on the necessity items. So that is depends upon the economic situation, and accordingly the consumers will make up a decisions, buying decisions in that particular situations. Next one is liquid assets. So when we talk about liquid assets, for example, you can say furniture. So automatically there are more liquid asset where the easily cash would be conducted. Any asset would be converted into a cash, and the someone who is likely or willing to spend on big ticket items like watch a movie or something. You can say any movie that you can watch and convert into a cash while referring that tickets to someone else. So let's take a brand example, that is Walmart. So how the Walmart influences the consumer's behavior. Walmart promise is almost here that every day the low prices. So automatically it reflects the economic situation, which relates to economic factors. So, especially in the times of economic downturn and among the budget conscious shoppers, walnut position an affordable shopping destination which influences the consumer behavior or buying behavior, looking up to maximize their purchasing power, so that once the low and low prices every day, the more and more consumers could come, and it automatically influence their behavior to buy that affordable products from the Walmart only. So this is also the one of the example relate to the economic factors. Now we come up to the next concept, that is consumer buying process. So the consumer, in other words, we can talk in this is it is also called the consumer decision making process, where it is also refers to a consumer buying process. So it is a journey of an individuals that how they prepare or follow up to make more and more relevant purchase decisions. So it depends upon the initial stages when the consumers are more aware about their needs, and accordingly they identify the needs which is more important, and they start gathering the information that what would be the best solution of it to fulfill their needs. And that point particular period of time or point of time, the consumer starts exploring or find out the alternatives, and based on the possible alternatives they can take up their purchasing decision, and and of course they can take up a post purchase evaluation as well. So this structured process reflects that how the consumers behavior could be changed and their choices could be changed. It totally depends upon the businesses, that how the business would engage and you can say target the audience effectively. The next concept is stages of consumer decision making process. The first one is problem recognized. So, in during the initial stages of the consumer decision making process, or this consumer buying process, it is very important that for an individual that we must aware about the need and the problem which is in order to acquire a particular product or service. And of course, the particular individual need to understand the differences between the perceived problem and its solution. For example, in order to understand this concept, we look out the example. Imagine you have own an older smartphone that is very struggles and cannot run the latest apps. So you have a problem, right? And now you have to recognize a solution. So that means you start searching, then there is a need to incur a new mobile phones where you will have a better mobile experiences, and that leading to problem recognized. So you already imagine and you know the problem. Now you have easily identified its solution. So once you recognize your problem, you will start finding out the solution for it, and that's called the problem recognition or recognized. Next one is information search. So once the problem could be recognized, consumers always try to gather the data and details about the solution towards their problems and needs. So they will explore the various sources, whether they can search on the online portals, they can go for the positive or negative recommendation towards the product, or to make up an informed decisions. So this is all about the second stage of the consumer buying decision. For example, if you want to wish to buy a new smartphone, you start searching online, you taking reading the reviews. So if you want to buy a mobile or purse, or any cosmetic products on the Snapdeal, or you can say Zepto or Amazon. So automatically you can start that searching a product online and just reading the reviews of the particular consumers who have used that product, who have purchased that product, and accordingly you can take your decisions. So automatically, there are some people who like to visit the stores to gather the information about the latest models, features, and prices, and that is all about the part of the information search. Next step is, that is a third step of the consumer buying process, that is the evaluation of alternatives. So once the information has been searched and you got the plenty of you can say information, and from that information you just evaluate the alternatives. You find out the options available from the gathered or searched information. So during this particular stage, individuals will assess the available option, the choices, which is based on the various factors like quality, price, brand reputation, reviews, so that to determine whether such product or services actually would be best fit to my needs or preferences or not. And that is called the evaluation of alternatives. Let's look up an example to understand this concept. After researching the various smartphones models, you compare those models based on the various factors like features, pricing, customer reviews, and then you can opt the best smartphone that offers the best value, offer value to your needs. And that is called the evaluation of alternatives. Next, once to evaluate the options, and you will now from the various options available, now you can take up the purchase decision. So the purchase decision is a stage where the consumer decision making process would begin, where the individual will recognize the need and gather information, finalize the choice of the product, and then they will look at the option, and the option which is best suitable, they will purchase that product, but based on the various parameters like price, brand, perceived value. So for example, after researching a smartphone options, they can choose a specific model which fits their needs, budget, preferences, and the purchase preferences as well, and accordingly the decision could be taken. Next one is post-purchase behavior. So when we once the product has been purchased, now what would be the behavior of the consumer after the product has been purchased? That is called the post-purchase behavior. Post-purchase behavior is the last stage of the consumer decision process, and of course, it totally depends upon the action and the feelings that the customers might face after making a purchase. So this stage is refers to a satisfaction or the dissatisfaction of the product. They could able to share their feedback, the potential for the repeat purchases or brand loyalty. For example, after buying a new smartphone, a particular individual can assess the satisfaction with its performances, with its features, with its overall experience. So, positive post-purchase experience may lead to a brand loyalty and the recommendation to others, and the negative will never come back to that kind of product or company as well. It leads to loyalty towards that particular product. So that is called the last stage of the consumer buying behavior. Now we come up to the three most important consumer behavior models. So before I come up to the model, let's need to understand what is consumer behavior model. A consumer behavior model is all It's all about the theoretical framework which always explain that why and how the consumers make purchasing decisions. It always reveals an outline map of the consumer decisions until it converts into a sales, and it always helps us to every stage to understand the consumer buying behavior or its own buying journey. So consumer behavior models is always helps to understand your unique products, unique customers, unique customer base, their attractiveness, engagement, and retain with the brand more effectively. So these model will always explain to helps to understand all these segments. So the consumer behavior model is classified into two main types, traditional and contemporary as well. So let's begin with the consumer behavior model. The first model is Howard Stern model. This model is always explained that when a consumer will make a purchase, there is specific decision making processes where and its associated factors that influence their purchasing decisions. So marketing and you can say business development professional find this model it's most of the industries. So automatically when we talk about it, it explains that how the consumer make a purchase and how what factors what factors the consumer decision would get influenced. So there are plenty of the marketing and business development professional who find this model is more appropriate to identify the consumers purchasing or specific decision making, you can say, process, and this model is finding very appropriate. And of course every industries follow this process when making any product and service, and this decision making process involves three levels: extensive problem solving, limited problem solving, and habitual response behavior. So extensive problem solving automatically, imagine you don't have you have very little information about the product you want to buy, and companies that actually make for it. So you use your problem solving skills and how to figure out what would be available and what the market offers. So this model is always help that. Limited problem solving, as you want to learn more and more about the product and how to compare how to compare the products with different others product options. So that is your choice, that is your level to understand. And if you want to becoming a savvy shopper, so automatically you can check out the various company offers online as well. Habitual response behavior, at this stage you can look up, you know a lot about the product, how and whatever you want and how it will get it. So almost it is your second nature, that you are very familiar with the product and the various ways are available to buy it. That means this model is based on your knowledge, on your understanding about a product you want to buy. And that's the main reason, and most of the industries prefer this model because they know and they prepare the product according to the needs or preference or understanding the needs of the consumers, and accordingly they will buy make the product, and the consumer will buy the product after researching or getting up all the information by its own. And that kind of or sort of model is called Howard Shed model. The next one is Angel Collett Blackwell model. The Angel Collett Blackwell model is like a roadmap for your shopping journey. It will give you each and every thing and deciding to buy something, to buy a product of any company, first is recognize a problem that if you need something, you want something, you need to identify what you actually want. Just acknowledge that you are acknowledge yourself, you are a detective, and you have to identify your need and want, which is actually missing in your life. The next one is gathering information. So once you recognize your need and want, just gather the information what you want. If you want a shoes, gather the information about the various brands and try to find out what type of shoes are available into various brands. Next one is evaluating options. So you can compare a different products, considering the things like you compare the features, prices, and quality. That what factors or what options are available that you can evaluate a particular product and a bit different from the others. Next one is making a choice. So once you evaluate the option, you can choose the best option to buy a product. So it's like casting your vote to the best candidate. It's just like that, making your choice. Post purchase evaluation, whether you are happy, whether you have a positive experience or negative experiences. That means it reflect how well your favorite team performed after a game. That is called a post purchase evaluation, and this model is always reflects your journey of your shopping. It always helps to understand all the steps that you have to go through to understand this model. Recognize the problem, gather the information, evaluate the options, and making a choice. And once you're making a choice, what would be your experience after post purchase? Next one and the last model is the family decision making model. So the family decision making model is a very important conceptual framework in marketing in order to understand the consumer behavior where an individual has to decide to buy a certain product after deciding along with his family and friends. So automatically family decision making model, what is exactly? After discussing with the family members or friends, close friends, then you are taking up a decision or deciding to buy a certain product and service. And that's called family decision making model. So family decision making model, it's not an individual decision, it is a collective decision taken by the family. Even if an individual is going to buy that product and service entirely with his own and own his or her own money. So that is called the family decision making model. Family decision making model, there are a few examples where a bachelor guy may fairly spend money on the gadgets or eating out, but once he has a family, he's buying patterns. Purchasing pattern becomes changed. So he's more interested in buying mutual funds, insurance, and house. So this is how the certain buying behavior could get changed because it's come when the family comes first. So if there is a child, more money is spent on toys, nutritious food, and education. So this is called the family where the decision has been changed, your buying decision has been changed based on the family. So the family come first, and accordingly, the particular individual would spend on the uh, on the family needs as well. Another example could be a car. If there is a family, a person might buy a car, a huge luxury car, where the more and more family members would get into it, and accordingly, there is space, maximum space is required, features and other preferences within the group. So this is called the family decision making model, where each and every buying decision based on the family needs. So this is called a family decision making model. That's it for today. I will come up to the more and more interesting topic. Till time, thank you for listening this lecture and namaste to all.